and we'll start recording as well. All right, we should be live on the tubes. Lewis hate stream. Yep, Lewis hate stream incoming. Rat Najit, I see you in the YouTube chat. But yeah, thank you all of you who are chilling in the YouTube chat waiting. Sorry for the delay. I was late to start the Twitch stream, which meant I was late to start the YouTube stream. But hey, if you come join us on Twitch, then you'll know exactly what is happening and when I'll be live on the tubes. All right. Rat Najit, without a doubt, is without fail, is in YouTube chat calling me out. Like it is long game videos worth 1,000 people. How does the editor choose the clips? No, 100%. I don't know how he does it. I mean, to be fair, Mr. Beast has an entire team. Like, I don't think F1 have a huge team. I think they just have a few editors. Yeah. All right. Let's get into this. Oh my god, this is gonna be a tough stream. Are you live on TikTok? Yeah, we're live on TikTok, Twitch, YouTube. At least for the Max video I made at the end of last year, I just remember most of the good Max moments. Yeah, but I guess with you, like, you can scroll through the best of... you can scroll through your videos 24 times. Like, surely there's not someone scrolling through 1,000 races to define the best moments. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. I've leave to get groceries with my mom, but I'll watch the rest of that. I'll catch you later. Bow. Appreciate you tuning on in. All right, let's get into it. I've got literally nothing on my main monitor, so this is like weird. I'm just staring at nothing. Let's do a little intro here. What's up, Razor? What's up, Murray? Flower, Rat Najit. Welcome to YouTube stream, guys. Just came from TikTok. Hell yeah, Leon Racing. Welcome to the stream, dude. All right, let's get into it. Thank you for the follow as well, Leon. Welcome, everybody, to my 2026 Formula One teammate head-to-head predictions. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through every single team on the grid, 11 teams now, and predict what I think the teammate head-to-head battles are going to turn out like. So, we're going to go in reverse Constructors' Championship order of last year. So, we're going to start with Cadillac, who are new to the grid, then Alpine, then Audi, and work our way all the way through to McLaren. And we're going to look at each driver pairing for each team and discuss who I think is going to come out on top in both the qualifying head-to-head and the race head-to-head. Now, I've done this the last few years on stream, and I've absolutely loved it. I nailed the head-to-heads last year. I'm fairly sure I went like 9 from 10 in terms of the head-to-heads, and was pretty bang on, even with my like out there controversial picks. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, if you are watching on YouTube or TikTok, come over to the Twitch stream because we're going to have polls up in chat for you guys to vote on. And you'll only be able to vote on those in Twitch chat. So let's get into it. First team, new entry on the grid. Actually, I should mention, this is the start of our predictions for the season. So we've got 3 predictions, streams, and videos that we're going to be doing. Starting off with the team at head-to-head predictions, and then we're going to be doing Constructors' Championship predictions, and then we're going to be doing Drivers' Championship predictions, and then we'll also do a little bingo stream at some point before the OzGP for the season. So they're kind of 4 predictions streams we're going to be doing. Anyone not know what this is? Because I feel like it's hard to word teammate head-to-head predictions. Like, some people, you know, you can say Drivers' Championship predictions, Constructor. It's pretty obvious what that is. But like, does anyone not understand the premise of teammate head-to-head predictions? You know, I'll give a rundown for people who don't know. In F1, there's 24 Grand Prix in a year, and obviously your biggest competitor is your teammate. Well, not your biggest competitor. The person you can actually compare yourself to is your teammate. So the teammate head-to-heads become like a very big part of Formula One statistics and like comparing drivers. And yeah, over the course of a 24 race season, you can look at qualifying and be like, this driver beat this driver 14 times to 10 in qualifying or in the race. So yeah, it's fun to predict these because you can then discuss like, okay, I think this teammate's better. I think this is going to be a close driver pairing. I think there's going to be a domination. And it's then fun to reflect back on. Like last year, for instance, I predicted Behrman to beat Ocon the head-to-head, and he ended up doing it. And I remember getting roasted for thinking Behrman would do better than Ocon. And meanwhile, you know, there's other predictions where I was like, I think Leclerc's going to annihilate Lewis. And everyone's like, no, it's going to be close. And then Leclerc annihilates Lewis. So it's fun. It's fun. Momo, what is up? Head-to-head and quali or race? We're going to be doing both. Obviously, I'm fairly sure. Yeah, okay, spoiler alert. There's only one prediction in my predictions where I've got one driver winning the quali and one driver winning the race. Every other prediction, the same driver wins quali in the race, but I like to do both just because then you can see the discrepancy between, is that the right word? The difference between, you know, like some drivers I think will do better in quali, some drivers will do better in the race. But most of the 10 out of the 11 picks, I've got the driver winning both. Anyways, let's start off. Brand new team in Formula One, new lineup, 2 drivers returning to the sport. We've got Bottas and Perez. And in my driver predictions, for my predictions, I have got Sergio Perez to beat Valtteri Bottas 15-9 in qualifying and 14-10 in the race. Now, let's get the poll up. This is how it's going to look today. So there you go. The poll is up. So every single teammate pairing, there'll be a poll in Twitch chat. All you have to do is type 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for the corresponding thing. So 1, if you think Perez is majorly going to beat Bottas. 2, if you think Perez is slightly going to beat him. 3, if you think it's going to be a draw or somewhat close. 4 for Bottas slightly. And 5 for Bottas majorly. And then after you type your vote in chat, type in chat why you think that, and we'll discuss it. Okay, so Perez beating Bottas 14-10. Now, let's first talk about qualifying. Or just let's talk about them as a whole. Bottas has been out of the sport now for 2 years. Obviously, he left Alfa Romeo in 2024 and sat out for... No. Wait, have they both been out of the sport for the same amount of time? Why do I feel like Bottas has had 1 extra year out? Oh shit, they've left the sport at the same time. Okay, my bad. Well, I was going to say, Perez has had 1 less year out of the sport than Bottas, but no, they've been the same. Anyways, Bottas, I think at Alfa Romeo, he was up against Zhou, who I think we can all agree is not that great of a driver. And in Zhou's rookie season was pretty decent against Bottas. And then in the second year, although Bottas did come out on top in the head-to-head against Zhou, I still feel like Bottas wasn't living up to his full potential at Alfa Romeo. And obviously, we know what type of driver Bottas is. He is a solid midfield driver. I would say he's a solid second driver. When he strings it together, he can do really well, as we saw some days in Mercedes. But as we saw in other days in Mercedes, specifically some parts of the 2021 season, and in that 2022 and 2023 and 2024 Alfa Romeo season, he was kind of under-delivering. Whereas Perez, I think, at Racing Point, was over-delivering in that car. Went to Red Bull, and I think in those first couple of years was doing really, really good. Obviously, it fell off. I think we can all agree. Well, I personally believe Perez fell off because of the second Red Bull seat situation. And I think Perez is going to come back into the sport. Maybe not in his normal form, but I think he's going to be able to build that back up. Whereas Bottas, I think we've seen his true potential. And I don't think his best is anywhere near Perez's best. So with that in mind, assuming these two come into the sport near where they left, I do think Perez will come out on top against Bottas over the course of the season. I've given Perez 1 extra in qualifying just because I feel like Perez... I don't know. I think Perez is, to be honest, they're both probably... I don't know. They both have great moments in qualifying, but they also have probably... Like, they have great race management, tire management, and race pace. I don't know why I've given Perez an extra 1 in qualifying. You know, I think I've mainly done that because I think when Perez was not sucking at Red Bull, I think his qualifying was really good. Whereas Bottas, again, against Zhou, was kind of slacking in the qualifying department. So, yeah, I got 15-9 in qualifying, 14-10 for the race. This is one of those ones, though, where I'm maybe not so confident about. I don't think this is going to be a close pairing. I don't think this is going to be one of those ones where they go back and forth each week. They're milliseconds apart. I do think it's going to be one where, like, Perez locks in 1 week, Bottas locks in the other week, stuff like that. But I think over the course of the season, I think Perez will edge. I'm going to say edge so much. I do think Perez is going to edge Bottas over the course of the season. Anyways, what do you guys think? Whoa, so many new chatters in chat. Welcome to the stream, guys. EJ Nixon, good prediction. You agree? How much did Grid Jokers pay you? What is the song? Holy shit, that was pissing me off. That was some Skrillex shit. Natural Joker, what is up? What is up? Bottas' best strength is quality, while Perez has been lacking it in it his whole career. However, Perez is still more capable driver overall. I believe it will be a draw or a slight quality lean towards Bottas. That's fair. That's fair. Emilich, what is up on the stream? Did Chris do the graphics? Yeah, Chris did the graphics. Oh, that's what I forgot to mention. Please bear with myself and Chris on the graphics for this, because obviously the season hasn't started yet. So 2 teams we don't even have driver photos for, and the teams we do have driver photos for, they're all different quality, different lighting and stuff like that. So these aren't going to be the best looking graphics in the world. Hopefully we get some proper studio photos for our driving championship predictions, but this is what we're working with at the moment. Anyways, continuing on. Bottas has a grid penalty. True, Bottas does have a 5-place grid penalty for first race, but I don't think that will change the head-to-head too much over the course of the season. Stop 3 Dev. Perez will do better. Cadillac will be a backmarker team. Perez spent much more of his career in midfield cars. You can see at Alpha and Merc that his overtaking skills are not as good as Perez. Perez at Racing Points has forced Indy was getting that car higher than it should have been. Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the reasons why I think I've got Perez as well over Bottas, is I think Bottas is a bit like Pierre Gasly, and I would almost argue like Lewis Hamilton now, where if you give them a car that is good, they will deliver. But if you give them a car that's bad, they kind of struggle. Whereas Perez, I think, has shown, I mean, I guess this contradicts with the whole Red Bull second seat, but if you give Red Bull if you give Perez a not so good car, like a Racing Point, he's proven throughout his career that he will get that car maximum positions. Look, put it this way. I think the best, the main reason I've got Perez to beat Bottas is because I think he's majorly underrated coming into the season by some people. I think some people are taking his last 2 seasons at Red Bull and going, that's how good of a driver he is. But forgetting that Perez has been in the sport for 10 plus years at a decent to high level for all of it. And those 2 years were somewhat of an anomaly when you think Liam, Tsunoda, Gasly, Albon all struggled in that car as well. It's not like Albon went back to Williams and sucked. No, Albon's great. It's not like Gasly went back to AlphaTauri and sucked. Gasly's been great. It's not like Liam went back to VCarb and sucked. He's been decent. Like, Perez will be the exact same. He'll go back and it'll be normal at Cadillac, I believe. Kiando, is they pronounce it Kiando? Thank you so much for the sub, dude. Appreciate you coming in with the Prime. Thank you so much for subbing for the very first time, dude. I appreciate that. 24 Ballon, thank you for the follow as well. Congrats to Red Bull Restart, dude. I appreciate that, Gloppen. Lightroom exists. Oh, yeah, we'll go in and edit in Lightroom every single photo. Hell nah, bro. Hell nah. Mentally fragile, though. I think Perez will do really well. You can't really judge based off of the second Red Bull seat. Red Bull is the outlier in Perez's career. Yeah, I think people have recency bias. Yeah, that too. Sup, Arca. I'm not gonna lie, Lando will still smoke both Perez and Bottas. Lando? How are you bringing Lando's name up into a Cadillac teammate head-to-head prediction? Apparently, Merc might have to remake the engine. Yeah, we're discussing that before we got into the predictions, Sulo. I think Perez and Bottas will be pretty close in qualifying. At their best, Bottas is a better qualifier. Yeah, no, I think you guys are right. I'm not going to lie. You guys are right about the whole qualifying stuff. Part of me wishes I swapped this around. I don't know why. I'm not going to lie. I did these predictions, and sometimes I I'll sit there. I'm someone who sits there and I look over my predictions. I go over them heaps of times, and then I'll send them to a friend and then get their opinion on them and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know why I put Perez one more in qualifying. I don't know my reason behind that. Anyways, I still think Perez will come out on top over Bottas. Second half of 2023 and all of 2024 were the only bad parts of Checo's career. Yeah, exactly. The other thing to say about a team like Cadillac is I think they're going to be a backmarket team, if not the worst team on the grid. So the head-to-head is also going to be one of those things where, let's imagine Perez was up against the worst driver in the world. He's, I reckon this is kind of going to be like the Alpine situation of last year where, oh, well, that sounds like I'm dissing Bottas now. But what I mean is look at Alpine last year, right? Gasly was clearly the better driver than Franco. But I think Franco got 6 or 7 points on Gasly in the head-to-head because when you're a backmarker team, you get in crashes. You have to try scrape out a Q1. There's literal milliseconds in it. And you try different strategies to try, Hail Mary and get some points and stuff like that. And I think, I don't think this head-to-head is really going to reflect either the driver's performances. It's just who's best on the day, if that makes sense. But I do think Perez will edge it, though. Perez was able to match Max the first few races of 23 up until Miami, and then the second Ricciardo stepped in the paddock, everything fell off. I don't think it was Ricciardo. I think they just took the car in the wrong direction, as we now know. Anyways, let's end the poll there. So majority of you saying Perez slightly, but we've got 34% of you saying Bottas slightly. Okay. So a pretty, like, I wouldn't say polarizing, but pretty spread predictions there. We've got 9% saying Perez majorly, 9% saying a draw. No one really saying Bottas majorly, though. Okay, interesting. Good one to start off with. I definitely think this is probably going to be one of the more, yeah, I guess, polarizing predictions of the lot, because there's definitely a lot of driver head-to-head predictions which are so obviously going to go one way or the other. But yeah, all right, Cadillac done. Now unfortunately my poll website fucking sucks, so let me just quickly write up the next poll. I have to do this for every single one. Okay, it doesn't take that long, to be honest. All right. How we feeling? How we feeling? Again, if you're watching on TikTok or YouTube, come join us on Twitch. That's where you can vote on the poll that is on the screen. Talon Laurent, thank you for the follow. All right, let's move on to the next team. Next up, we have got... Now, I don't think they're going to be this far down the grid this year. I do think they're going to be higher up. Anyways, that's we'll talk about that when we get to Constructor Championship predictions. Anyways, next up, we've got Alpine, and I've got Gasly beating Colapinto 19-5 in qualifying and 19-5 in the race. Now, poll is up. Get your predictions in on the poll. 1 for Gasly majorly, 2 for Gasly slightly, 3 for draw, 4 for Colapinto slightly, 5 for Colapinto majorly. Now, I think Gasly is the superior driver in comparison to Colapinto. I think Colapinto might be the worst driver on the grid again this year. Maybe you could argue Lindblad just with his experience right now, but if I had to take a guess, if you took all 20 drivers right now and put them in equal cars, I think Colapinto comes out last, even behind Lance Stroll. And I don't know why this has happened, but Colapinto's just really fallen off since leaving Williams. Maybe it's a car situation. Maybe he just wasn't comfortable in that Alpine. But yeah, he was getting kind of rocked by Gasly last year. Anyways, that aside, look at this year. I think Gasly is just this far superior driver. He's been in the sport for a very long time now. He's been performing at a high level for a very long time now. He's very comfortable with that team. And Colapinto, I think, still has a lot to learn. Obviously, he's crashing a lot, so he needs to tidy that up whilst also trying to bring pace to match Gasly. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty safe bet to say Gasly is going to beat Colapinto quite convincingly. Now, the reason I've given Colapinto 5 points is because at the end of last year, Colapinto was starting to trade with Gasly a little bit. He was getting close to him in qualifying, and he was outracing him. But the main reason for that, I'm fairly sure last season they ended 17-7. In the head-to-head, which was pretty good for Colapinto, to be honest. Or 15-7, or whatever it was after doing, I can't remember. Either way, Colapinto got a decent amount of races and qualifyings on Gasly at the end of last season. But it was kind of a similar situation to what I was saying about Cadillac, where because they were a back marker team, you know, Gasly would have problems. He would get taken out. He would do a Hail Mary strat that Colapinto would beat him in the head-to-head. And I don't think that's going to really happen this much this year, where the Alpine's going to be at the back of the grid. I think we're truly going to see Colapinto and Gasly's pace. And, you know, I do think Colapinto has the ability to maybe get 5 qualifyings and 5 races on Gasly. But I think over the course of the season, Gasly will be the better driver of this team. And that's why I think it'll be 19-5. De Luis and Libro Di Pendente. Thank you guys for the follows. You've already been posted on Twitter. GG's. Colapinto won't even get 5, you reckon? Yeah. I mean, I think Gasly isn't the most tidy driver on the grid. You know, mistakes will still slip up, and that's where Colapinto will hopefully be able to capitalize. DeCorny, what is up on the stream? I think 90-5 is valid. Colapinto is easily the worst. He got worse from 24, which is crazy. Yeah. He's just, I think the best way to put it is like, Colapinto hasn't really shown me much progression. I honestly think Gasly would have won the championship in the McLaren. Damn. Sorry, everyone. New member on Twitch. We don't find the point. You just type in chat, G-Man. You just type in chat the number. Colapinto points in 2025 is 0. Gasly is also better when he has a good car. That too. How's Colapinto not been replaced yet? I mean, yeah, money, right? Money. All right. We're in the poll there. Majority of you saying Gasly majorly. 16% of you saying Gasly slightly. Yeah, I have to agree. It will be Gasly majorly on that one. Yeah. All right. Alpine done. Next up, we got the Audi boys. Let me write this out. Bortoletto slightly. Bortoletto majorly. All right. Next up, we have got another new team on the grid, but the same driver pairing, Hulkenberg and Bortoletto. And this is probably my most interesting prediction for the teammate head-to-head this year, teammate head-to-heads this year. And that is, I have got Bortoletto to beat Hulkenberg in qualifying, 14-10 this year. But Hulkenberg to win the race head-to-head, 13-11. So, poll is up. Get your votes in on the poll. 1 Hulkenberg majorly, 2 Hulkenberg slightly, 3 draw, 4 Bortoletto slightly, 5 Bortoletto majorly. What do you guys think? After you vote in the poll, let me know in chat what you reckon. So, let's start with qualifying. Now, last year, Bortoletto actually matched Hulkenberg in the qualifying head-to-head, which is amazing. And that was his first year in the sport. Now, remember, everyone was gassing up Hulkenberg last year. Some people even putting Hulkenberg in their top 10 for the rankings, for the driver rankings. So for Bortoletto to match a driver like that in some people's eyes, I think that goes to show how good Bortoletto was last year, specifically in qualifying. There was that portion of the season where he was constantly making Q3s in a Sauber. I think he was doing really, really good. And I think that is going to flow on to next year. Now, obviously, it could switch back. Hulkenberg in 2024 in Haas was insane in qualifying. So maybe it switches back. Maybe he's comfortable with this Audi and he brings his qualifying form back. But from what I know and what I saw last year, I do think Bortoletto has the edge on Hulkenberg and quali. However, in the race, Bortoletto is still struggling, I think, with understanding the tires and understanding his race pace in comparison to Hulkenberg, who's a very experienced driver. Now, Hulkenberg obviously got lucky a little bit last year with some of the positions he finished in, but overall, he's a bit like Alonso. He knows how to maximize his car in a midfield position, and I think the Audi will be in the midfield this year. Spoiler alert for my constructors' predictions. Well, maybe they're not even midfield, backfield. So, yeah, even though I have got Bortoletto quite convincingly, I guess you could say, beating Hulkenberg in the qualifying head-to-head, I do think it's going to swing back 3 points to Hulkenberg because just solely, you know, he'll only qualify a little bit behind Bortoletto, but that experience in the race, that pace that Hulkenberg has, I think he will end up edging Bortoletto over the course of the season. So, yeah, I don't really know what to deem this. I would say Bortoletto slightly for qualifying and Hulkenberg slightly for the race. So I guess that evens out as a draw. But yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. And I think some people are going to disagree. I feel like some people are going to be like, you're stupid. Hulkenberg is a way more experienced driver. But last year, the head-to-head was pretty close. And that was Bortoletto's rookie year. Whereas I can see people saying the other side of the coin, which is Bortoletto did so well in his rookie year. Now it's new cars. Hulkenberg has to relearn the cars. Bortoletto is going to smash it. And honestly, I see both sides of the argument. Well, I actually don't see the first argument I said. I don't see how you can disregard Bortoletto after last year's season. But I can see how you could gas Bortoletto up and be like, well, look, it's new cars. They're both learning at the same rate. And Bortoletto already probably proved last year that he might be a better driver than Hulk. So, yeah, I can see a world where Bortoletto ends up doing well in both the race and qualifying head-to-head. But I do think Bordello is, as a rookie, he's going to have to spend a little bit more time on his race pace. All right, what do you guys think? Why's my nose running? Kamalski, what is up on the stream? It happened so often last year. Yeah. Those two push each other. It's good chemistry. Yeah, I agree. And they still get along well. I think Gabby and Hulk will be about equal. Fair enough. But a little better. I think Bam will replace Hamilton next year at Ferrari. I think Hulk likes a car with front biased car. If this new Audi car is frontly, he wins a lot. I said 4, but wanted to put 3 because of the Silverstone clutch. Hulkenberg is mid as fuck, and Bordello is also mid as fuck. Lol, both are seriously overrated. Okay. Speaking of Gabby and Nico, did you see Gabby cooking for Nico? I did not. I just know Audi will not deliver for both of them. I have a pinned message for how to vote on the polls. Oh, yeah, true. That's a good idea, actually. Type the vote on the poll. That should hopefully work. All right. What good did Bordello do? In his rookie season, he matched Hulkenberg in the teammate head-to-head. All right, we're in the poll there. So, wow, majority actually was pretty close. Hulkenberg slightly and Bordello slightly tied, and then a lot on the draw. Wow, okay. So I think it's, yeah, I think people can see it going both ways. People can see, okay, Hulkenberg, the more experienced driver, new cars, he's going to adapt better. But then you can also see Bordello, like, he did well last season. He's going to build from that this year. And then a lot of people saying draw as well. This is going to be a close one. Actually, I don't know if it's going to be close. It's a hard to predict one. Put it that way. It also depends where Audi's on the grid. If Audi, let's put it this way. If Audi was the best team on the grid, I was going to say, if Audi's the best team on the grid, I think Hulkenberg takes it. But then, I actually don't know about that. But then I was going to say, if they're a back market team, I think, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard. Let's not forget Hulkenberg was so good in qualifying in 23 and 24. Look at the 2024 Abu Dhabi qualifying. No, that's what I mean. Hulkenberg has the potential to have really good qualifying, but at the end of the day, he did get matched by a rookie. So, yeah. It just depends how comfortable Hulkenberg is in that car. 2025 Hulkenberg is a low bar. You think 2025 Hulkenberg is a low bar? I don't think Hulkenberg had an as amazing season as some people made it out to be, but I don't think it was a low bar at all. I think Hulk has actually fallen off in quali. Obviously, he got crushed by Bam in all 3 quali sessions they had together. In races, he's still good. Yatrix, save for the follow. All right, we'll end the poll there. Let's move on to the next team. All right, next up, we've got Haas. Start thinking about it. All right. Next up, we've got the Haas boys. Now, I got this teammate head-to-head prediction bang on last year, even though it was controversial. And I'm going for it again. I have got Behrman to beat Ocon convincingly in qualifying and decently in the race. What do you guys think? The poll is up. 1 for Behrman majorly, 2 for Behrman slightly, 3 for draw, 4 for Ocon slightly, 5 for Ocon majorly. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So if you don't know, all the graphics, I've put the driver who finished higher in the standings on the left. And it's kind of crazy to think Behrman in his rookie season outperformed in the head-to-head and outperformed in the championship points against Ocon, who's been in the sport for ages. Now, I don't hate Ocon, but I'm not a fan of Ocon. He's definitely like bottom 5 drivers for me in terms of drivers I like, and probably drivers in terms of talent. And I think he showed that last year. Anyways, let's look at this year. I think this year it's going to be a similar story to last year. I think Behrman is the better driver. He has more talent. And I think what he showed in qualifying last year was insane. And I think we're going to see that again this year. I think Ocon isn't too great in qualifying, to be honest. However, I do think Ocon will get a little bit back on Behrman in the race head-to-head. Reason being, I think Ocon's race pace is pretty decent, and his understanding of a race and putting his car in a position to capitalize on points. And I think Haas will be solidly in that midfield this year. So that's where I think Behrman will claw it. That's where I think Ocon will claw it back. But overall, I still think Behrman is going to end up being the better driver this year. Even though, yes, he is only in his second year, and there's going to be a lot to learn with the new cars. Ocon hasn't shown to me in 2 regulation cycles now, that, and many different teams, that he's able to adapt to cars quick. Like, he took a lot of time at Renault to adapt. He took a lot of time at Haas last year to adapt. He took time at Alpine to adapt. I just don't think he's going to adapt well to these new regs as quick as a young driver like Behrman, who's already proven that he can do that. So yeah, 14-10 for Behrman, 17-7 to Behrman in qualifying. So I'd say Behrman's majorly, slightly. No, we'll go slightly. Majorly in quality. I agree with this. Hey, but I haven't seen the Flavor Rebel. What one is this? This is last year's winter edition. Sorry, 2 years ago. Ice for the Liberty. I think it was 2025's winter edition. Now it's a permanent flavor. Ocon was bad in 2025, while Behrman was, in my opinion, the best rookie. Ocon seems like he's close to the end of his career, sadly. Yeah, I agree. I think if he gets beaten by Behrman this year, they got to bid him off and bring in a new rookie, because what's the point? What's Ocon bringing to Haas as well? Behrman deserves a better car, potential world champion. I agree. Ayal gassed this rookies too much. What do you mean? He gassed the rookies too much? In his first year, he beat Ocon. The Haas team principal made a statement recently. Ocon has to up his results this year and expects Ocon to be the team leader. Interesting. Doesn't excuse Ocon not performing in the later half. Ocon is on the retirement arc. They'll either bin him off for Kamara or leave him for another year. Haas signing Kamara alongside Behrman would be very interesting, not having an experienced driver at the team. Champagne J, thank you so much for the sub, dude. I appreciate that. Thank you for subbing for 2 months. Thank you for coming in with the Prime. Really do appreciate the support. Thank you, dude. Also, Basli Soul, thank you for the follow. And you think it's going to be Behrman easily? Zaki, thank you for the follow. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say, to be honest. Hamilton to Haas, here we go. Do you think Hamilton would ever move to a back market team? And the thing is, drivers like Hamilton and Max Verstappen, I can never see doing what Alonso did and going to a McLaren or going to an Aston. It's kind of crazy that when you think about it, it is kind of crazy Alonso never got an opportunity at a big seat. Like, you're telling me Red Bull signed Gasly. Wait, what year did what year did Alonso come back? 21. Yeah, I guess Perez over Alonso, you could argue, made sense. But still, like, you're telling me like Alonso didn't go to Red Bull for the second seat. You're telling me Alonso couldn't go to Ferrari instead of Sainz. Alonso couldn't go to Merc instead of Antonelli. Like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy Alonso's not a top team, because I just can't imagine Lewis or Max being at a back market team, or not back market team, a non-top 4, big 4 team. He wouldn't want to be a second driver. True. Red Bull never signed outside the academy apart from Coulthard, Webber, and Perez. A young rookie driver they could develop. If the Ferrari car isn't in the top 2 this year, Behrman or maybe Bortoleto will be in a Ferrari seat next year. Right, we're in the poll there. So, majority of you guys saying Behrman majorly, and then a lot of you saying Behrman slightly. No one at all on Ocon's side, and not many of you predicting a draw either. Interesting. All right. Next up, the Aston Martin boys. So start thinking what you're going to predict. I don't think you need to really think too much, though. All right. Next up, we've got the Aston Martin boys. This is probably one of the easiest, if not the easiest, to predict. And I've got Alonso to beat Stroll 22-2 in qualifying and 19-5 in the race. Oh, my poll got fucked up. One sec.
Building the argument for Stroll is not as bad as you think. 2025, Stroll versus Alonso when the car was best in qualifying, Imola, plus 0.2 to Alonso Hungary, plus 0.1 to Alonso Brazil, 0.0 Vegas, 0.0 Stroll versus Alonso when the car was at its worst, Belgium, plus 0.1 to Alonso Japan, plus 1.2 to Alonso Miami, plus 0.3 to Alonso Mexico, plus 0.6 to Alonso Bahrain, plus 0.7 to Alonso. You'll notice an identical trend in 2023. He gets worse when the car gets worse. In 2023 he was not fully healthy.
I was wondering what the fuck was your point. Okay, I'm glad you rounded it off with the point there at the end. Generic Gamer, thank you so much for the 245 bits, dude. Really do appreciate that. Well, I'll get back to that in a second. But my thoughts. So, I mean, Alonso 24-0'd Stroll in qualifying last year. And, I mean, Stroll... I guess he's kind of come close with Vettel in that year, but Stroll's never really beaten his teammate over the course of a season. And I think Stroll's qualifyings were horrific last year. Constantly going out in Q1 while Alonso was making Q3. Very, very, very much under-delivering. Now, kind of like what Generic Gamer said, there was a few times where Stroll was very close and it was only milliseconds from making it through to the next session or milliseconds behind his teammate. But still, I think that's where Alonso has the edge. Even if it's milliseconds, Alonso will dominate Stroll. I honestly would give Alonso 24-0, but I'm giving 2 points to Stroll because new regs, there's going to be engine breakdowns, there's going to be issues and stuff like that, things that Alonso needs to learn. And I think Stroll at least get 2 on him. In terms of the race, though, I have given a few more points to Stroll because we've seen what Stroll can do with his race pace. We've seen what Stroll can do in wet weather. And I think, just like last year, Stroll will be able to get a few points on Alonso. But most specifically, not because Stroll is better than Alonso, but because Alonso is too good for his own good. Is that the saying? In the sense of, Alonso so knows how to get points with a midfield car. He knows how to back up the pack. He knows how to take risks, when to take risks. Yes, sometimes those risks don't work out. And that's where Stroll will get those 5 races on him. But those races where it does work out, he really capitalized. He gets those points. He gets the job done. So, yeah, I think naturally Stroll will just get a few race head-to-heads on Alonso because of Alonso being the driver that he is. But yeah, I think, as per usual, the last few seasons, Alonso is going to dominate Stroll. But I agree. I don't think this is going to be as big of a domination as people make it out to be. Again, I still think Stroll's a better driver than Colapinto. Is that saying much? Probably not. But, yeah, Stroll, when he tries, he can do well. I just don't think he is able to do that consistently enough. So, yeah, it's going to be a domination from Alonso. Jake Mr. Rebel Red, thank you guys for the follows. But yeah, in regards to what you said, Generic Gamer, like, I do agree, like, Stroll has those moments, and it's not as bad as some people make it out to be, but, yeah. Thank you for the 245 bits, dude. Generous, didn't Alonso beat Stroll 24-0 in qualifying last year? He did, but you got to remember, it's new regs now, like, there's going to be a few things going Stroll's way. Boys, everyone spam 5. What have you guys done, man? What have you guys done? I was amazed that you even gave Stroll 2 in quali. He hasn't qualified ahead of Alonso since 2024. Yeah, but again, I think, there's going to be at least 2 races, right, where Stroll does something when Alonso has a problem. 30% less grip on the cars fits Stroll more. Is Lemons not here to vote on his GOAT Stroll? Lemons died. Rest in peace. Excuse me. No, he didn't, obviously. All right. Poll. Majority of you guys saying Alonso majorly, but somehow 34% of you saying Stroll majorly. Don't know how you guys have pulled that one off. How do you vote on the poll? You come over to Twitch Jaden, and then you can vote. Yeah, that's a pretty easy one. There's not much really more to talk about. That is pretty obvious. However, the next one isn't so obvious. Next up is Racing Bulls. Start thinking, start thinking. I'm not gonna lie, I really struggled to come up with a like, how do I word this? Well, I'll talk about it once I get to it. All right. Next up, we've got Racing Bulls, a new pairing on the grid, and our only rookie on the grid. Well, technically, Colapinto's a rookie this year, but our first actual rookie on the grid. Sorry, our only rookie on the grid. We have got the new Racing Bulls lineup, and I have got Liam Lawson to beat Lindblad 15-9 in qualifying and 17-7 in the race. Poll is up. 1 for Lawson major lead, 2 for Lawson slightly, 3 for draw, 4 for Lindblad slightly, and 5 for Lindblad. Oh, wait, let me redo this poll 1 sec. I fucked it. Lindblad majorly. All right, sorry, polls up. If you already voted, retype. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I kind of struggled to come to a decision on this. I always was gonna put Liam above Arvid, but there's the argument that Liam struggled last year against Hadja in qualifying at the start of the year, and to be honest, over the course of the season. And, you know, there's a world where Lindblad comes in, new regs, doesn't have to readapt to a car, just needs to learn the car as it is. And Liam continues that trend of underperforming in qualifying. Or there's the side of it, well, Arvid's the rookie, Liam's the experienced driver. Liam's in the past, in junior career, really good at adapting, so maybe he adapts to the regs really, really well. So I was kind of like, do I make this a domination for Liam? Do I make this close? I kind of settled in the middle of like, it's Liam's slightly to majorly. Yeah, I've got 15-9 in qualifying. Again, I really think Liam struggled in qualifying last year. Hands down, his biggest problem that caused all his problems of last year. Going out in Q1 when Hadja was making Q3. Going out in just constantly in a session behind Hadja. And when he was near Hadja in quali, he was always, most of the time, behind Hadja. Even if it was a millisecond, he was behind Hadja. And it just really set up so many problems for him. And because of that, I do think Lindblad will be able to get a good amount of qualifyings against Liam this year. However, I don't think Lindblad is going to be as good of a driver as Hadja. I mean, I think that's just a fact. Unless Lindblad, like, Hadja was rookie of the year, blew us away. So for Lindblad to be better than Hadja, like, Lindblad's going to have to be a fucking insane. So I just think that's going to be hard for that to happen. And I think in terms of the race, I think Liam's race pace was amazing last year. Specifically in the second half of the season. You know, he got the same amount of points basically as Hadja in the second half of the season as Hadja got in the start of the season. Liam was on it. The Liam that I expect to see in F1, you know, really good with the tires, really good at managing his car and the situation that he's in. And I think, again, the V-Carb is going to be in that similar spot of kind of in the midfield battling for points. And I think he will be a level up from what we saw last year. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about, and I don't have the confidence and like backing Liam and being like, this is 100% going to be the case, is obviously Liam's kind of inconsistencies in his F1 career so far. Like, if you just look at his junior career, he's been phenomenal. But obviously he had that 2-race seat stint at Red Bull. I mean, it's not really something to go off of, but he obviously struggled. But it was more the coming back to V-Carb and having to take time to build that confidence. I'm worried as a Liam fan that he doesn't get off on the front foot straight away, loses a bit of confidence, and kind of has a bit of a spiral, which, you know, we've seen drivers do, where, you know, if Lindblad, put it this way, if we start off the season and Lindblad's comfortable with the car and Liam isn't, I just hope Liam doesn't get in his own head, because, you know, I don't want to see another 8 to 9 race streak like Liam had last year where he's just underperforming and it takes him so long to get up to speed. I really hope he starts off the season strong, because then he can build from that. Because, yeah, what we saw at the end of last season from Liam was really, really good. So it honestly just depends how the start of the season goes for Liam. But we also, Arvid's an unknown. You know, is he going to be a Hadja and come in his rookie year and over-deliver? Or is he going to come in and be a Nick de Vries, a Colapinto, a I don't know, Joe, where it's just like, they're just there. You know what I mean? So we don't know. We don't know what Arvid's going to be like. But anyways, that is what I've got. What are you guys saying, though? It should be Liam, but hard to tell with rookie. Liam, but I don't know, major or slightly. Yeah. I think we can all agree, like, it's probably going to be Liam, or it should be Liam, but Liam's inconsistency kind of makes you not as confident with the pick. On tracks with lower grip, he got P6, P3 in quality, and the cars next year are more low grip. Funny is that Liam brought RBs their best qualifying results of the season in Baku. True. Honestly, expecting Lindblad to be right there with Lawson, if not ahead. Lindblad showed better performance in the Red Bull in his FP1 session than Lawson did at any of the sessions in his 2 races. Yeah, true. My only concern with Liam is he will be able to adjust to all the cockpit adjustments needed this year. Wait, the cockpit adjustments? F1 race at the end of the raid, dude. F2 in Austria last year. Arvid's a future star. Formula E stat. Is that really a raid? If there's 2 people? Whoa. A raid's a raid, man. W raid. Liam podium, all Mercedes Ferrari engines would blow up. Okay. Lindblad is better in race pace than in qualifying, like Alonso. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but Liam's also better in race pace than quali. So, yeah. Milan, Werner, Chimeri, Jay Butcher. Thank you guys for the follows. Okay. Is there anything else to say about Liam and Arvid? Yeah, I think the underlying point is Liam should be Arvid, given the information we have, but it's hard to tell with Liam's inconsistencies and Arvid's unknown in an F1 car. This could be really, really close, and sadly, this ends up being Liam's last season in Formula 1. Or it could be a really good showing from Liam and, like, okay, put it this way. This is actually a good question. Let's imagine Liam somewhat dominates Arvid. Arvid doesn't do bad, but let's say Liam consistently outperforms Arvid in quali in the race. Do we look at Arvid and go, that's a bad season? Or do we look at Arvid and go, he's a rookie, we expected Liam to beat him? Because I feel like people need to set their expectations now, because for years, I've heard from dumb F1 fans, to be fair. I mean, opinion's opinion. But from dumb F1 fans, I've heard Liam's shit, one of the worst drivers on the grid, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't deserve to be in the sport. But if Liam goes on to do well against Arvid, are people then going to diss Arvid and say he's shit? Or are we going to be like, okay, well, he's a rookie, you know what I mean? So that's where I'm like, I don't know. I feel like you need to set your expectations now. Otherwise, we're going to go into this world where, like, if Arvid does bad, we're going to see people be like, nah, he's shit. Get him out. Liam's shit. He's much worse than Liam. But then you're going to have people defending him and being like, well, Liam's good, and Arvid's just in his first year. So, yeah. Put it this way. My expectation for Arvid is exactly where I expect what I've got here, which is I expect Liam to be the more experienced driver who will outperform Arvid. And I think Arvid will have some decent results. Like, even as a rookie to get 7 against a somewhat experienced driver like Liam will be pretty good. I think under this Mackey's era, the rookies will get more than just one season about their skills. Not gonna lie, I voted 4 because I'm also Punjabi. Yuki got 4-0'd in the races in 2023 to Liam, which is a wild. If Arvid gets the cuteness bias like Yuki did, then the agenda will continue against Liam. True. All right, we're in the poll there. Majority of you saying Lawson slightly. A few people saying Lawson majorly. A few people saying draw. And a few people saying Lawson, Lindblad slightly. Well, these predictions are way more spread out than previous years. I think last year it was very much like, I think like 7 out of the 10 teams were like hard majors or like clear favorites. But this year we've got quite a few, like some people saying Bordello, some people saying Hulk, some people saying Lindblad, some people saying Liam, some people saying Bottas, some people saying Perez. It's interesting. I like it. But we do agree on the Lawson slightly. All right, next up, we're getting to the big boy pair, some of the big boy pairings now. We have now got Williams to start thinking about what you're going to do. All right. I don't understand why everyone is hating Lindblad. Like, come on, he's a rookie. He's incredibly talented. That last time we saw him so... Wait, who's hating on Lindblad? I don't think I've seen a single person hate on Lindblad. When Joe got a seat in the sport, when Liam got a seat in the sport, Colapinto, Bortoletto, Antonelli, almost everyone who I've seen get a seat in the sport, I've seen hate for. Oh, Antonelli, he's way too young. Well, not hate, but criticism. He's way too young. He's got no... He crashed in practice. Or, oh, how's Liam getting a seat? He stole my favorite driver's seat. Or Colapinto, he's only there because of money. I've literally seen no one hate on Lindblad. Maybe I've seen some people say, oh, he's too young. But... And, like, his F2 season wasn't too great. But... I think the people who are clued up enough to watch F2 and actually evaluate his results know that those results don't really warrant him not getting an F1 seat. But yeah, there's no one to, you know, he's British, so no one's hating on him for his fucking nationality, and he's a nice guy, so no one's hating on him for his personality. I've generally seen no hate for Lindblad at all, which is good. Like those clips of crashes, you know, mate, that's the Monza crash. Oh, you're talking about the... Yeah, but like... Yeah, he had a stinker in Monza, but like... I wouldn't say that's hate. I think that's just people just like laughing at the fact that he had, you know, a fair few collisions in one F2 race, and now he's going to be on the grid. Lindblad I only like because he's Swede. Yeah, so for people who don't know about Lindblad, Lindblad is a British driver, but he's got Swedish and Indian heritage. So it's kind of cool to have two... nationalities for like two nationalities that haven't been in the sport in a while, for like those countries, India and Sweden, to have a driver to support. But then Red Bull are going to be very happy that they've got a British driver that they can market, because yeah, I feel like that will help get the Red Bull's PR back up in the UK. Dino is close to F1 though. I hope. I would love to see Dino. All right. Anyways, let's move on to Williams now. Allah, thank you for the follow. All right, Williams, big boy teammate head-to-head prediction. Big boy teammates lineup is what I'm trying to say. I would say, is it controversial to say, the second best driver lineup on the grid behind McLaren? And I think there's going to be a feisty teammate head-to-head if this car ends up being in the top 3 or fighting for wins, because they both want to be that main guy at Williams, but at the same time, they're both knowledgeable enough to not need to do that in their position that they're in right now. Anyways, I have got Sainz to 14.10 Albon in qualifying and 13.11 in the race. What are your guys' predictions, though? 1 for Albon majorly, 2 for Albon slightly, 3 for draw, 4 for slightly, or 5 for Sainz majorly. Yeah. I think Albon... Coming into last year, I can't remember what my prediction was for this. But I think coming into the season, I predicted Sainz would be better. And Albon ended up being the better driver for the start of the season. But as Sainz got more comfortable with the car, he became the better driver. It's not that Albon got worse or got bad. It was just Sainz ended up getting to the form that we know of from Sainz. And I think coming into this year, it's going to be close again. I think they're going to be trading. What was annoying last year about Williams was when Sainz did well, Albon did bad. When Albon did good, Sainz did bad. I think hopefully that gets eradicated this year and they're both good. And I think if they're both good, pushing each other to their max in qualifying, pushing their max into the race, I think Sainz proved last year that he is the faster driver. Obviously, again, new regs, so it's hard to tell. But I think it's going to be similar to last year. I think Sainz is just going to edge Albon in qualifying. I think Albon will claw one back in the race just because Albon's race pace is really good. But yeah, I think it's going to be slightly to Sainz. Although, again, it's one of those ones where I wouldn't be surprised if Albon is slightly better than Sainz, or they end up drawing and it's a really, really close pairing. Keep in mind, by the way, I think this is a really close pairing. I just think Sainz is going to just... It's a 24 race season. I just think over time it's going to add up for Sainz. But yeah. Most overrated lineup in your opinion? Could get ugly. It's the most overrated driver up. Whoa, you guys hate what? It's not flipping better than Ferrari, mate. Oh, it is. This. Wait. Wait. I mean, I guess it's kind of a conversation. You guys think Lewis and Leclerc in current form is better than Williams' current form? I mean, don't get me wrong. Charles is a much better driver than Albon and Sainz, but Lewis is, in current form, one of the worst drivers on the grid at the moment. I think both Williams drivers edges that Ferrari lineup, in my opinion. Like, obviously, if we're talking lineups, best lineups on the grid of all time, and yeah, of course, Ferrari is one of, if not the best lineup on the grid. But if we're talking current form, I don't think Hamilton is a match for these two at the moment. I mean, I guess there's the argument that Williams boys were inconsistent last year again when one did good, what the other one did bad. But in terms of level of driving, I think they're both great. Williams can have two drivers performing good at the same time. If one performs well, the other bottles. At one point in the season, Sainz was down 17-19. The season ended 73-64. Albon got way worse for no reason. But the thing is, I don't think Albon got worse. I think Sainz just finally locked in. Albon after Monza didn't do much, to be honest, when Sainz was getting good points while Albon was busy fighting for P14, P15. Leclerc is miles clear of Sainz and Albon, and Hamilton is still more capable than either of these guys. You really think that if you chucked Sainz and Albon in the Ferrari last year, they would do worse than Lewis? I don't think so. Do you really think that Albon to Sainz would have scored more points than Leclerc Hamilton last year in the same car? Yes. Because Williams almost beat the Williams was almost consistently beating the Ferrari at one point in the season, and the Ferrari was a better car. Not the Ferrari, Lewis. I low-key think, anyways, that's not the conversation for today. I low-key think Albon, because Albon was just much more consistent than Sainz last year. Yeah, because Albon in a bad car is not good. Sainz is better than Lewis. Lewis is better than Albon. Sainz is a maybe, but he was inconsistent in the first half. Leclerc over Sainz and Hamilton equals to Albon in current performance, so Ferrari line was better. Yeah, fair. Fair. That's fair. Hamilton has always had problems with the ground effect cars. These new cars are more likely to Lewis's liking. I mean, look, we'll get to Lewis soon, but yeah, we'll talk about Lewis soon. We're literally the next team is Ferrari, so we'll talk about Lewis then. But I somewhat agree with you. Not gonna lie, Liam's potential. Wait, that's a Liam comment. I don't know if it's gonna be 2015 McLaren Honda again in Aston Martin, but the design of the car is so aggressive it's suffocating the engine. You reckon? Have I said everything I want to say about Williams? I think I have. Yeah, I think it's a good lineup. I think both drivers will do well, and I think. Thanks, TikTok. Yeah, I think it's a good lineup. I think both drivers will do well, and I just think Sainz will just do a little bit better. I think the qualities you need for a bad car are different than what you need for a top team, and that's part of the reasons why Lewis struggled last year. Where did Albon get this rep from? He was trash at Red Bull, and the first time he's had a good teammate, he got destroyed once the car was suited to Sainz. But he didn't get destroyed, though. Albon beat Sainz in the standings. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. It's what I've learned from driver rankings last year and this team at head-to-head today is how polarizing the Williams are. Some people think this is a great lineup. Some people think this is mid. Some people rate Sainz way more than Albon. Some people rate Albon more than Sainz. Like, I don't know. I think it's a little bit recency bias. I think people look at the two podiums for Sainz, which were amazing. But forgetting how good Albon's start of the season was. But yeah. All right, we're gonna end the poll there. Majority of you saying a draw. Quite a few people saying Sainz slightly, and a few people saying Albon slightly. So again, pretty polarizing. Okay, maybe one of the most polarizing polls of the lot. Yeah, Licketh, I've seen your message, bro. The chat is on Twitch. Come join us on Twitch. All right. Put up a good song. I've just got random songs queued right now in the back. Sounds a much better and more consistent driver once he's familiar with the car. I can agree with that. All right, next up is Ferrari. Start thinking of what you're going to do for Ferrari. All right. Next up, we have got the Ferrari boys. Now, last year, I predicted Leclerc to dominate Lewis, and I got criticized. I got told I was a Lewis hater. I got told I was out of my mind. And in the end, I was correct. And I'm a facts man. I'm a stats man. And I'm going with it again. I've got Leclerc to 20-4 Hamilton in qualifying. And I've got Leclerc to 17-7 in the race. Look, do I think this year is going... Poll is up in chat, by the way. 1 for Leclerc majorly, 2 for Leclerc slightly, 3 for draw, 4 for Hamilton slightly, 5 for Hamilton majorly. Look, do I think this is going to be a better year for Hamilton in terms of him being comfortable with the car? Yes. I do think it's going to be better for Hamilton. But at the same time, I think people are forgetting that Lewis is 40 plus years old. This is going to be his 4th regulation cycle. Yeah, his 4th regulation cycle. He's clearly not comfortable with that team either. He's got a new engineer that's going to take time to adapt to. He's got a new manager that's going to take time. I know that's not doesn't affect on-track performance. That's another thing you have to worry about. He's changing his team up. He's 40 years old. He's got to learn a new car. And most importantly, he has to learn how to manage a battery. Now, one of the biggest things in Formula 1 is experience, right? But everyone's coming into an equal playing field, having to learn about this battery management. And I don't think personally Lewis has the interest or the patience, in my opinion, to learn a new system like that. He is very outspoken about how he doesn't do track walks anymore. He doesn't do much simulator work. And the best way to learn something is to give it your all. And I don't think Lewis is going to be as locked in as these young drivers, specifically the rookies, in learning the new stuff with these cars. I hope I'm wrong, but I just think Lewis is at the point now where I think he'll be more comfortable with the car, but he's going to lose that experience edge that he had because there's just this whole new system that these other drivers are going to want to learn, which Lewis has never had this level of battery management in his career before. Anyways, let's talk about Charles and Lewis in qualifying. I mean, last year, Leclerc absolutely dominated Hamilton in qualifying head-to-head, and I think it's going to happen again. I mean, Lewis really struggled in qualifying. He was going out in Q1, Q2 almost every single week, and when he wasn't, he was getting out qualified by Leclerc. You know, obviously, I think there'll be a few qualifyings like we saw last year where Leclerc fucks up, and that's where Lewis will capitalize on it. But overall, I think Leclerc is one of, if not the best qualifier on the grid, going up against someone who's really struggling in qualifying in the last 4 years. However, in the race, Lewis's race pace has been phenomenal. I mean, obviously forever, but even in these years that he's been struggling. But again, I just don't think his qualifying will allow him to beat Leclerc enough in the race head-to-head. Maybe you could argue the race head-to-head is a little bit harsh, but I think, again, just with the way these cars are going to be, I think Leclerc will comfortably, majorly beat Lewis. Look, I hope I'm wrong. Lewis fans, before you fucking comment, I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is a close matchup. I hope they're both performing at their best, and we get a great battle between them, and they both deliver and bring points home for Ferrari. But factually, Lewis is in terrible form, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. He was getting convincingly beaten by Russell, and now he was convincingly getting beaten by Leclerc last year. He's getting beaten by rookies and worse teams on the grid. Again, I don't think Lewis is a bad driver, but he's clearly just not comfortable in the sport at the moment. And I don't know, if you think I'm crazy for predicting Leclerc to beat Lewis majorly in the head-to-head, I'm sorry, just go look at last year's head-to-head. It was bad. And I think it's going to be bad again. And again, that's not me hating Lewis, so please don't come at me. This is just a prediction, and I hope it's wrong. But I was right last year, so get off my dick. Anyways, that's what I'm going to say about the Fry boys. What are you guys saying? After that, Lewis would surely retire. Well, I think it's going that way if he does. Yeah, it's the end of Lewis. Honestly, I can see it. Leclerc will find this form again. I feel bad for Lewis fans. I think they'll both be better, but Charles still wins out. I'm going to seem crazy, but Lewis wins this narrowly. These car fits Lewis is better, and Leclerc showed less quality and race pace. Or Leclerc is still god-awful in the wet. I mean, yeah, true, but yeah, it only rains a few times a year. Age doesn't mean anything in F1. It's your ability to adapt. But that's the thing. I agree with you. But I think Lewis's ability to adapt is terrible because he's not adapted to these new regular cars after 4 years. Yeah. Leclerc also needs to learn the same thing. I will say, yeah, no, obviously Leclerc needs to learn these battery modes as well as Lewis. But I think Leclerc has shown that he puts that time in off track to learn this stuff, specifically in the simulator, whereas Lewis has kind of neglected the simulator for years. Yeah. Charlotte Leclerc, the lift and coast Lewis and Leclerc was doing last year would help them. Hamilton is not fast enough to beat Leclerc in new regs or not. Lewis's last year, in your opinion? Yeah, I think, like I said with Liam, I think if Lewis doesn't deliver this year and the car is bad, I think this could be Lewis's last year in the sport. Well, his contract runs out, so Ferrari will have to decide, do they re-sign a driver under-delivering because it's Lewis Hamilton? And if they don't, Lewis then needs to decide, does he go to a back market team, which he's not doing. So it's honestly going to come down to, yeah, it's literally going to come down to, is Lewis good enough? And if Lewis isn't good enough, it then comes down to, are Ferrari stupid enough to re-sign Lewis just because it's Lewis Hamilton? So yeah, it really does come down to how good Lewis does this year. Yes, new regs can help him, but if he's consistently slower over a lap, he will never be able to start beating Leclerc in the races. I agree with your thoughts on Hamilton. The battery and aero management is what it started about drivers handling cockpit controls. Lewis's last year in Formula 1. It seems like Ferrari do have a decent car this year. That's true. That's true. I don't know if you could say his race pace was phenomenal last year, though. Yes, he made a lot of overtakes, but they were against lower teams. I mean, that is true. Like, if you're qualifying so bad, your race pace is going to look better. But when you look at, like, times and stuff like that, he was kind of matching Leclerc in race pace times, if not doing better than Leclerc. It was his qualifying that was affecting him a lot. Cap, he's old, give it up and retire on Kimi's waist. Maybe he sticks it another year. Also, Ferrari do have a good car. Others will come looking for his seat. True, true. Why pay Lewis 70 million to underperform? That's what I mean. But knowing Ferrari, they probably would fucking do that. Anyways, majority of you saying Leclerc majorly. The rest of you basically saying Leclerc slightly, and a couple people saying Hamilton slightly. Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna go sleep, bro. I have college tomorrow, early morning. Catch you later, Liquor. Appreciate you chilling. Is he Lewis because Fry is keeping him, or is Fry keeping him because he is Lewis? Wait, what? All right, next up, Red Bull. Start thinking about what you're going to do for this. Lol.
So excited for F1 2026.
Hamad Ahmed, thank you so much for the 3-month resub with tier 1. Dude, I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Really do appreciate your support. And I just saw 2010 in your name. Does that mean you're 15? I'm not gonna lie, I saw 2010. I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna lie. When I read 2010 in your name, I was like, he's like 8 years old. And then it took me 1 second to realize, wait, 2010 babies are 15 years old now. That's wild. That is wild. Anyways, thank you so much for the 3-month resub, dude. Really do appreciate coming in with the tier 1. All right. Next up, I don't think there's much more. Next up, we've got a new driver pairing. Maybe you could argue a much-deserved promotion for Hadja to the main team. But I've got Max Verstappen beating him 22-2 in quali and 22-2 in the race. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing indicating, right, that Hadja will do better than Max. Put it this way, there's nothing indicating that Max won't continue his run of dominating his teammates. Do I think there's a world where Hadja does good in this car and actually delivers points for Red Bull? Yes. But do I think there's a world where Max doesn't beat Hadja? Absolutely not. Like, I think if there's one thing you could bet on this season, it is that Max will beat Hadja in the head-to-head by the end of the season. I think that's just a fact at this point. But yeah, you know, I said last year in the head-to-head with Liam Lawson hopping to the Red Bull seat, I said, look, I think Liam's going to be able to adapt to that car. He's a young driver. He's shown he's able to adapt. And I think he'll do good in that car. I was wrong. He only got 2 races to prove it, but I was wrong. But I still predicted Max to dominate Liam. And I think it's the same again. If I have to make a prediction, I do think Hadja's going to be better in that Red Bull than Sonoda and Perez and Liam. I think it's going to be easier for him because it is a new reg of cars. The car's not going to be super duper 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 tailored to Max just yet. But regardless of how good or bad Hadja is, I still think Max is going to dominate Hadja in the head-to-head. Now, why have I given Hadja 2 points in the head-to-head and not just 24 to note it? I think because it's new reg of cars, I think there's going to be a bit of learning that Max has to do, a few problems here and there, specifically like an engine failure. So I think Hadja will be able to capitalize on Max's problems. Unlike previous years where even when Max had a problem, he will still fucking come through the field and dominate his teammate. I think at least Hadja will have the ability to capitalize on a few of Max's mistakes and stuff like that, or problems. So yeah, that's where the 2 comes from. I mean, I just hate predicting 24-0. That's just harsh, man. That's just harsh. But yeah, I think this is a straightforward one. I mean, you know, regardless of if you think Hadja's going to be good, bad, or mid, Max is going to beat him. It's just a fact. What are you guys saying? No, 1. Yep. I feel like Red Bull is the most impossible one to predict. Obviously, Max is winning, but then again, the real question is how much. Ultimately, I think Hadja can come sort of... Okay, you're trolling. Let's be honest. Unless Max has an absolute stinker of a start to the season, Red Bull would direct it that way anyway. Yeah, exactly. Between slightly / majorly, it just depends on what Mechis wants to do with the car development. DQ is only way Isaac wins against Max over a season. I think Hadja breaks the curse, not because he was better than the other victims, but because they know how to make the car, not to make the car all about Max. My heart wants it to be close for both, but my brain says Max will beat Hadja 21-3, but Hadja won't do as bad as Yuki, Liam, or Checo. If Hadja is consistently in the top 8 in the race and has a podium or 3, it's a great year for him. Oh, absolutely. They might use Hadja as a tire tester. I think this could be accurate, but I don't think Hadja will be 15 places behind, but closer. Anything slightly deviating from the general opinion equals trolling. I mean... Look, I'm sorry to disregard your opinion as trolling generic gamer, but to say Red Bull is impossible to predict, I don't know. I think it's been the most easiest thing to predict for the last 6, 7 seasons. So then come into this year and be like, oh, it's hard to predict the Red Bull lineup. We've got a driver in the 2nd season against one of the most experienced drivers on the grid who just dominated the teammate every single year. I think that is easy to predict. I mean, I get what you're trying to say. Like, there is a world where Hadja doesn't do as bad as other people in the previous years, but I mean, I think this is the safest thing to predict is Max winning the head-to-head. I think Hadja will always be in the top 10. I hope so. Never say 6, 7 again. I'm back. I got groceries. Hell yeah. Did you get yourself a good snack? HD Nut. HD Nut. Thank you for the follow. Oh no, Rebel will eventually mess this car up too, trying to make it better for Max, but Hadja will do okay this year before those car engines wreck him. Car engines. All right, majority of you guys saying Verstappen majorly. A few people saying Verstappen slightly. I mean, I hope we see Verstappen slightly instead of a Verstappen majorly like we've seen the last few years, but I just think it's so unlikely. All right. Red Bull done. Next up, Mercedes. start thinking about your prediction. What the fuck? Predictions? I hate that I have to type this out each time. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take me long. But I don't know why the poll wasn't working before. All right. Second last team of the teammate head-to-head predictions. We've got Mercedes. Now, I was very critical of Antonelli last year because everyone was glazing him. He was a rookie. He was doing well, but he was getting glazed. And when people get overrated, I like to bring everyone back down to reality. But anyways, that aside, for Mercedes teammate head-to-head, I have got Russell to 19-5 in qualifying against Antonelli and 20-4 in the race. Does that mean I think Antonelli is going to have a bad season? Absolutely not. Does this mean I think Antonelli is a bad driver? Absolutely not. I just think similar to what we just said about Max and Red Bull, maybe not on that high of a scale, but I think Russell is one of the best drivers on the grid. I think he's the second best driver on the grid right now, if I'm being honest. And he's comfortable with that team. He's coming into his 5th season with the team. And Antonelli last year showed some amazing highs. You know, the sprint qualifying in Miami, and a few results at the end of the year. I think it was Sao Paulo where he convincingly outperformed Russell, but that was one race. As far as I'm aware, there was only one race where he convincingly outperformed Russell. So I think coming into this year, Russell obviously still has that same motion behind him of he is a very consistent driver, a fantastic qualifier, a driver with great race pace, who's comfortable with the team. And Kimi Antonelli's still got a lot of learning to do. And now he has to learn that car again. Yes, Russell has to learn that car as well. But, you know, Russell's adapted to a new regulation before, going from 21 to 2022. And, you know, I think if Mercedes are going to pick a driver to direct the car in, it's going to be on Russell's side of the garage. But I think at the end of the day, this just comes down to, I think Russell is is a very consistent driver, and it doesn't matter how good Antonelli is. I don't think he's going to be consistently beating one of the highest level, most consistent drivers on the grid. Put it this way. If Russell wins the championship, I think Antonelli finishes P2 in the championship. If Russell finishes 3rd in the championship, I think Antonelli finishes 4th in the championship. This does not mean I think Antonelli is going to do bad. This just means I think Russell is so consistent, it is hard for Antonelli to beat him in the head-to-head. Now, why have I got one more in qualifying head-to-head over race head-to-head for Antonelli? I just think Antonelli showed some decent form in qualifying at the end of last year. He really like started to get close to Russell, and I think his biggest problem is similar to Piastri back in 2023, is that race pace and that tire management. So yeah, maybe this is a bit of an out there prediction. Maybe this will be more like slightly Russell than majorly, but you know, I'm gonna stick to my guns. I did it last year with my teammate head-to-head predictions, and I went for what I actually truly believed in, and I was right for 9 out of the 10 picks. So I'm sticking to that again, and I think it doesn't mean Antonelli's going to do bad, but I do think Russell will be consistently better than Antonelli over the course of the season. Rachel Morg, they were the follow. All right, what do you guys think? Now a little more Antonelli. 2, I think Antonelli will improve a bit this year. Hopefully he has confidence with a good car, but that could always go against him if a lot of pressure to perform well. Russell's very consistent, bro. Kimi will be the youngest champ, you reckon? Russell's a sneaky driver, always makes it podium and no one else is talking about him. Yeah. I think Kimi will majorly improve this year. For example, when George is P1, Kimi is most likely betting with him for P1 or he's P3. Yeah, I agree. In my opinion, that is too big of a gap. The last few races were phenomenal for Kimi. He is improving fast. That's true. That is true. I think it will be closer in the last 7 races. Antonelli beat Russell 4-3. Yeah, look, you can look at the end of last season, 100%. But I also look at that midpoint of the season where he was just nowhere. He was absolutely nowhere. He struggled in the midpoint of the season. But yeah, again, I'm just going with my guns. I do think there is a world where it's look, put it this way. I think there's a world where it's close between these two. And I also could see a world where Antonelli does do better than Russell if he comes out the gates with this car well. But I think the best way to put it is he has to be the next coming of Max Verstappen to beat the second best driver on the grid in his second season of Formula 1. He needs to be the next coming of Lewis Hamilton in 2008 to beat the second best driver on the grid. Like, yeah, I think you're very, 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 very much underestimating George Russell if you think there's a good chance Antonelli beats him this year. Like Russell has been one of the most consistent drivers on the grid for the last 6 years, consistently beating his teammate, beating Lewis Hamilton. And to think a driver in their second season is going to beat Russell is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's crazy to me. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but yeah. If Antonelli ends up beating Russell in the head-to-head, that'll be insane. Also think Merc are smart enough to prioritize Russell in a title fight, and Kimi may have to take a step back potentially. Maybe. George is very consistent. Doesn't really matter because Land will be winning all 24 GPs. This guy. Trackside girl, they were the follow. All right. Will Kimi win a race? Hopefully. All right, majority of you guys saying Russell slightly, but we've got a few people saying it's going to be close as a draw, and a few people saying Russell majorly. Okay. All right. That was probably one of my more, not controversial, but more like different opinioning picks, because I think a lot of people have got like the whole, and there's nothing wrong with this, the whole, I think Kimi will, yeah, bold. I think everyone's got that kind of like, at the end of last year, Kimi was doing good. I believe in Kimi. Like, Kimi's going to be good this year, which I think could be the case, but I'm sticking to my guns of Russell is so fucking consistent. Russell is the second best driver on the grid. So for Antonelli to beat the second best driver on the grid will be fucking insane. And I just think that's unlikely. I'm a stats man. I'm a facts man. And factually, for Antonelli in his second year to do better than the second best driver on the grid, like, I don't know. I just don't think that can happen. Again, I don't think he's going to have a bad season. I think it'll be, yeah. Anyways, all right, we're moving on to our final pairing. And probably, I'm glad they're last, the most controversial, not controversial, the most hard to predict pairing. It is McLaren. Let me get the poll up. All right. Oh, fuck's sakes. By the way, guys, if you're watching on YouTube right now, come join us on Twitch. That is where you can vote on the poll. So yeah, come join us if you haven't already. We do activities like this a lot on the stream. So you want to be on the Twitch chat so you can vote on these polls. But yeah, guys, if you have enjoyed the stream so far, be sure to follow down below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Yeah, thank you all for joining me so far for the predictions. Again, this is the first lot of our prediction streams. We've got Drivers' Championship predictions, Constructors' Championship predictions, Bingo, and a bunch of other stuff we're going to be doing. So be sure to follow if you haven't already. All right. Last, but definitely not least, the McLaren boys. Probably the hardest to predict teammate head-to-head battle of the season. I think this is going to be a polarizing one. And by far, I think the best lineup on the grid. Two drivers, high level. Also in a weird period where, like, who's the number one driver? Papaya rules and all that shit. Anyways, I have got a draw in qualifying to match last year, I think it was. Wait for the sound to go away. But Corks, buddy, thank you so much for the sub, dude. I appreciate you coming in with the tier 1. Thank you, dude. Really do appreciate supporting with tier 1, man, for the first time. Thank you, man. Thank you. Wait. Yeah, Corks, buddy. I got that right. Thank you, dude. Really do appreciate you coming in with the tier 1. Hell yeah. All right. And then in the race, I have got Lando to edge Piastri 13-11. All right. Poll is up. 1 for Norris majorly, 2 for Norris slightly, 3 for draw or close, 4 for Piastri slightly, 5 for Piastri majorly. Now, I couldn't decide what to do for this, man. I couldn't decide what to do for this. My brain, I don't even know if it's my brain or my heart, some part of my body wanted to go for a Piastri win in the head-to-head. Because I feel like Piastri dominated F3, dominated F2, came into F1, really picked up the F1 car quick. Last season, came out the gates flying, but it all fell off at the end of last year. And I think Piastri has learnt so much from last year, and he's such a talented driver. I feel like he can come out the gates swinging again this year if the car feels right for him. But at the same time, Lando has way more experience than Piastri now, has adapted to a new regulation of car, which Piastri hasn't. And on his day, when he is performing at his best, like we saw at the end of last season, is one of the best qualifiers on the grid and has one of the best race pace on the grid. Lando's biggest problem is mistakes. And I think with these new regular cars and with all this new stuff to learn, I do think he is also going to continue making mistakes. I don't think that's going to disappear from Lando's kind of ability as a driver just because he's a champ now. However, I do think that's going to play into his favor in the sense of there's less pressure now. There's less like, I want to win so bad. I want to win a championship so bad. I do think those mistakes are going to hopefully fade, but I think complacency will kick in a little bit. I think Lando, I see as a driver who maybe won't put as much time in the simulator, as much time in the engineering room to learn these cars as Piastri, who's now fucking hungry. And I think that's where it balances out. I generally cannot decide. And this is not these predictions being so close is not I can't decide, I'm going to go with a draw. I just genuinely think this is going to be a draw. I think like last season, some tracks, Piastri's going to be locked in. Some tracks, Lando's going to be locked in. Some points of the season, Piastri's going to do better. Some points of the season, Lando's going to do better. You know, I think Piastri's going to be fucking hungry. And I think Lando's going to be way more calm. And I think it's just going to balance out. We're going to have another very, 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 very close season. And honestly, again, like, part of me was like, I have a feeling Piastri's just going to come out swinging and Lando's going to be complacent. But then part of me is like, Lando's going to come out so smooth. He's going to be fucking more of a smooth operator on the grid than fucking Sainz now. And he's going to be so calm and just no cares in the world and just be so consistent. And I don't know. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. So I got 12-12 for qualifying, so a draw. First time I've ever done a draw for teammate head-to-heads, I think. And I got 13-11. Now, why have I edged Lando over Piastri in the race? I think Piastri is still learning those tires, it seems. You know, even though it's his 4th year, I still think Lando has a much more better understanding of the tires and how to perform in a race. And I think he's got better race pace. I think Lando's problem is mistakes, specifically in qualifying. So I think Lando will just edge it slightly in the race. So yeah, that is my prediction. Corks, buddy, again, thank you so much for the raid. Not the raid, the sub, man. Really do appreciate you coming to the tier 1, man. Thank you. All right, what are you guys saying? As much as I support Lando, if we look at Piastri's trajectory, he just keeps getting better and better. Piastri beats him by the smallest of margins. Yeah, that's kind of another thing that I feel like. I feel like Lando's, like, very slowly going up as a driver. You could almost argue he went backwards in 2024, and then kind of came back in 2020. I would say he almost went backwards in 24 and 25. And then at the end of last year, he came back to his peak form. Whereas Piastri's just getting better and better and better and better. End of last season kind of went down, but I think he'll come back up. Yeah. 5, Revenge Arc. The Untold Wanderer on the stream. In the bin, an Australian. Pastry is very quick. Piastri, I think, will do better. Piastri got to worry about not choking in the final race of the year instead of worrying about team orders. I think we'll be close between the two, but I feel Lando will have an advantage. He has experienced a regulation change, whereas Oscar hasn't. Exactly. We also saw Oscar struggle at the end of last year too. Oscar has better mentality than Lando this year. Lando's better on George to win. Wait, what? Wait, what is happening in the chat? Pussy, report yourself. Blake's a pussy for fence sitting. Wait, what? What is happening? Bro, what is happening? Piastri is going to want to redeem himself. He's always had good pace. For me, the thing that lets Oscar down is the last few races of the season. He's never really been able to grasp the majority of the last few races on the calendar. Yeah. Piastri has issues driving in dirty air. Probably the reason he went down at the end of the last season when it became too difficult to be at the front. This year's dirty air won't be such an issue supposedly. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. How's it going, though? P. More Nolan? Lennon? I probably butchered that, but I'm not sure he did. I just think Lando's better in quali as he's never been beaten. It's going to be draw or Oscar doing better. It's true, but I'm mad. I don't think Calm when I think Lando, not gonna lie. I think Piastri is the better driver this year, but he will not overcome the Brown Norris bias in the team. McLaren keeps trying to hide. Norris will get the first upgrades and the car developed to his style. Maybe. I don't believe in that personally, but could be. Caitlin Ambrose. Oscar still needs to fix his issues with consistency and pressure, while Lando has figured that out and already seems to have a lot more confidence since winning the World Driver Championship. Well, we've seen confidence in his personality and his interviews. He hasn't done much interviews since he won, but we'll see how it correlates on track. Which might help him iron out the mistakes at least a bit more. I also think you underestimate Lando's commitment to F1 by saying he doesn't spend much time in the sim. He cares a lot. No, sorry, I must have worded that wrong. I never said Lando doesn't spend much time in the sim. I think Lando, it was one of those drivers for years who was always trying to get the most out of himself. Like, always in the engineering room, always in the sim, trying to better himself. What I was saying was, now that he's won the championship, we have to see how he reacts to that, because I do see Lando a little bit as a party boy, a little bit as someone who likes to, like, when he's doing well, maybe like steps off the gas a little bit. And now that he's won the championship, is he going to be as locked in? Is he going to put that extra 10% in like Piastri, like other drivers on the grid? So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Lando is a driver who puts a lot of time into his career, but now that he's won the championship, we'll have to see how that plays out. Pretty ugly before. Nacho, Bird, thank you guys for the follows. Lando's not going to do well in fights without the best car, you reckon? See, I think the opposite. I think Lando was a top-tier driver when he was in a midfield team and he didn't have that pressure. But as soon as that pressure came on from Max and the World Championship, that's when we saw him start to crumble. And it wasn't until his championship was basically over after Zandvoort that he was like, fuck it, and we really saw him kind of come back into it. So yeah, now that he's back on new regs, needs to learn the car, Piastri's back on equal points, and he's got a World Drivers' Championship under his belt. Will he go down the route of, like, you know, will he kind of the pressure continue, or like the bottling continue, or will it be like, I won a championship now and the confidence is there? My only concern with Piastri is him not being able to drive an oversteering sharp car. Norris flat out adapts better. I wouldn't say Piastri doesn't adapt. I think Piastri's one of his strong suit is adapting. That's why he gets better week after week. But I can agree with you on the whole like pointy car. Everyone constantly saying Piastri gets better, but Lando will also get better. Well, the thing is, Lando was getting better his whole career. From 2019 all the way through to 2023. The level of driver we saw Lando at in those first 4 seasons was insane. But in 2024 and 2025, he kind of plateaued, if not went backwards, because of those mistakes. So again, like, we see the level of driver that Lando's at. If he ties up those mistakes and he becomes more consistent, he is a top driver on the grid. But I think Piastri could go even further than that. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It's hard to tell. B1AQ Frost, leave with the follow. I love Mark Webber and Daniel Avocado, but Lando obviously held on to the title. Oscar's better mentality than Oscar has better mentality than Oscar this year. That doesn't make sense. You can't bring up Norris versus Piastri without expecting a little bit of spice in chat. True. I actually think Oscar mentality isn't better than Lando's. Lando's just more obvious. They both made mistakes. I think the difference is I think Lando's mistakes came from his mentality. I think Oscar's mistakes came from... I don't even know what it came from. Just not understanding the car or just not being as good of a driver. W stream crash? My stream didn't crash. Do you think the extra driver input the drivers seem to experience with the active air and battery management with the new regs, do you think the more controlled drivers, the drivers that don't have to fight their car, will widen the field, so to speak, in terms of driver skill? I think that, well, I mean, I think that, who was it? Who was I listening to? I can't remember who it was, but talking about like the bandwidth of a driver. Like Max Verstappen has the most bandwidth. He's the most comfortable in F1. He's one of the most experienced drivers. He's going to have that extra bandwidth to learn these new modes, whereas other drivers, specifically the rookies, they're still learning how to overtake, how to race, how the tires work and stuff like that. Are they going to have the extra bandwidth to kind of like learn the battery? So yeah, I guess just the more experienced you are, the more comfortable you are with your car, the better they're going to be learning these new modes. Also, Piastri doesn't do well on low grip tracks, and these cars are said to have less grip. True. Mental as well for Oscar. First Monza drama, then Baku. Awful second part in 2025. Oscar cracked under real pressure, worse than Norris ever has. I don't think Piastri cracked under pressure. I think he just fell off. You know what I mean? Again, I think Norris's problems come from mentality, whereas I think Piastri's problems just come from, I don't know, like, I don't even, like, it's not lack of skill, but he just really struggles. Yeah, by the way, that qualifying draw is indeed the first time you've ever had a draw for head-to-heads. Yeah, I generally couldn't decide. Like I could sit here and be like, Norris 13 to 11, but I don't know if I truly believe that. I generally just think they're going to trade and it's going to be close to a draw, if not a draw. Yeah, inexperience, I guess you could say. That championship bottle is worse than anything Norris ever was slandered for. Yeah, no, I mean, oh yeah, the Piastri's fall off was terrible at the end of last year. But you also got to remember Lando was in his, what, 6th season, and was also, I think for, as well, like, I agree with you, but you got to remember, like, I think the hate for Norris last year came from Norris running his mouth of saying for years, if I had the quickest car, I'd win, and like, they only good because they had the quickest car. So then when he made mistakes, he would get criticized more. So yeah. I think Oscar will learn from his mistakes and hopefully papaya rules will lower down. I think the perception of the team not sticking to the rules they had agreed to didn't help Oscar. I think if there was clear support from the team, it would have helped Oscar a lot more. Like, why didn't they back him for the Brazil penalty? Yeah, but I guess, you know, we look at performance here, not necessarily McLaren's decisions. The Piastri season argument has to stop this year, surely. But, well, we'll have to see. If he sucks this year, then clearly there's a problem. If he doesn't suck this year, then I don't know. Clearly it was a one-off or like a, I don't know. It's too complicated. Anyways, we're in the poll there. Majority saying Piastri slightly. Obviously, it is very spread. We've got some people saying Norris majorly, some people saying Piastri majorly, majority saying Piastri slightly and Norris slightly, and a few people saying a draw. But wow, definitely the most interesting driver lineup on the grid. Really, really hard to tell. I can really see it going both ways. Again, I can see it being a draw. I can see Piastri slightly edging it because he just keeps getting better and better and better, and Lando maybe gets complacent. I can see Lando now being a new, reimagined Lando with a great mentality, and we see the 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 Lando Norris level of driving with a brand new mentality, and he's just, he kind of gets on that George Russell level of like consistency. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Anyways, guys, that is it for my teammate head-to-head predictions for 2026. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down below. yeah, this was fun. I always enjoy doing this because, and to be honest, this year was really good. It feels like there's a lot more. I think this is what's great about having a stacked F1 grid is there's only 2 drivers, Stroll and Colapinto, where like you're like, eh. Obviously, Max being Max is a pretty dominant, but the other 7 teams, no, the other 8 teams were pretty like you could argue maybe Liam doesn't do as well as people think, or you know, Hulkenberg versus Bortoletto, or you know, Bottas versus Perez. Like, even though I think most of the picks we agreed on, it's still like not as clear cut as previous years, which is really, really exciting with the driver pairings. And one thing to look out for coming into this year. But yeah, thank you guys all for joining me for the first predictions of the year. We've got Drivers' Championship predictions coming up, Constructors' Championship predictions, and some other stuff as well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. So there's a little outro for YouTube, because I think I will turn that into a video. But yeah, let's see how these picks do, because I smashed my head-to-head predictions last year. I think I got 9 out of 10 correct, so let's see if I can go 11 for 11 this year. All right. Guys, that is it for today's stream. YouTube, I'm going to end the stream there. We're going to stay live on Twitch just for a little bit longer, so if you haven't already, come join us on Twitch. Be sure to subscribe down below. Be sure to like the stream if you haven't already. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one tomorrow for the Cadillac reveal. Bye-bye.